Disclaimer: this video is based on a real Reddit story. Some details may have been edited for clarity or storytelling purposes. Viewer discretion is advised due to emotional themes. It was supposed to be the happiest moment of our lives, or at least that's what she made it sound like. My girlfriend of 3 years had always been a little intense about milestones, but this time, she gave me an ultimatum I couldn't ignore: proposed to me at the family Christmas party, or we're done. No discussion. No compromise. Either I made it official, in front of her entire family during their picture-perfect holiday celebration, or I could consider myself single by New Year's. At first, I thought maybe it was nerves talking. Maybe she just wanted reassurance. We'd had our ups and downs like any couple, but nothing that felt final. Still, her tone told me this wasn't a request, it was a demand. I was torn. I cared about her. But something about the way she pushed this on me didn't sit right. What made things worse was how oddly specific she was about the timing, the location, even how I should get down on one knee. The more I thought about it, the more it felt staged. And that's when the little things started to add up. Sideways glances between her and her sister, her sudden interest in my finances, the weird silence when I tried to talk about the future on my terms. I started wondering, was this really about love and commitment, or was there something else going on? Turns out, I wasn't wrong to be suspicious. The night of the party came. Her entire family was there, dressed to the nines, cameras ready, holiday music playing. She kept looking at me with this smug little smile, like she already knew how the night would go. And so, when the moment came, I did exactly what she asked. I got down on one knee, pulled out a ring box, and then I looked up at her sister. And what I said next? Let's just say, it changed everything in the room. Her jaw dropped. The room went dead silent. Her plan to embarrass me backfired in the most unexpected way. But what really set things off wasn't just what I said, it was how her sister responded. Everyone froze. Her sister's eyes widened, then quickly darted toward my girlfriend, like she wasn't sure if this was a prank or something more serious. I calmly opened the ring box, revealing not a diamond, but a small folded card with a real estate logo printed on it. You could hear the clock ticking in that silence. I looked her sister in the eye and said, "I'm going to need a new place, and I heard you're the best realtor in town. Can we talk?" At first, no one reacted. It took a few seconds for people to process what just happened. My girlfriend stood there, staring at me like I had short-circuited. But I didn't flinch. I knew what I was doing. Because here's what they didn't know. I'd pieced things together over the last few weeks. Text messages I wasn't supposed to see, conversations that stopped when I walked into the room, and her sister's guilty glances whenever we were all together. See, this wasn't just about pressuring me into a proposal. This was about setting me up. Somewhere along the way, my girlfriend decided that if I wasn't going to pop the question exactly how she wanted, she'd humiliate me into doing it, or humiliate me if I didn't. Either way, she got attention, drama, and a story to tell. But what she didn't count on was me turning the story around. The card in the box wasn't just a stunt. Her sister was a realtor. A really good one, actually. We'd spoken a few times before at other gatherings, but it was all casual, until I started catching her giving me warning signs. It wasn't obvious at first, but something in the way she'd say, "You sure you're happy?" or how she changed the subject when her sister started bragging about the proposal plan. She knew more than she let on. And I think part of her was tired of being a bystander in someone else's manipulative game. And here's where things started to twist. Instead of being furious, her sister smiled. Just a little. Almost like she'd been waiting for someone to finally call it out. My girlfriend, on the other hand, went pale. She stormed off, grabbing her wine glass so hard she nearly shattered it. And the family? Let's just say, the tension in that room could have cracked the windows. But this was only the beginning. Because what happened after that moment would drag up secrets I wasn't ready for, and I don't think they were either. The silence after my girlfriend stormed off was heavy. People shifted uncomfortably, whispering to each other, pretending not to stare. Her mom looked horrified. Her dad just shook his head and poured himself another drink. Her sister, still standing in front of me, gave the smallest nod, as if to say, "You did the right thing," even though we both knew this was going to blow up in ways we couldn't predict. I quietly stood, slipped the card back into the ring box, and tucked it into my jacket. I didn't need to say anything else. The message had landed. But while I kept my cool on the outside, inside, my heart was racing. Not because I was scared, I'd already made my decision, but because I knew this wasn't just about an awkward Christmas party anymore. There was more going on behind the scenes. And I was finally starting to see it clearly. Later that night, her cousin, who'd always been friendly but quiet, pulled me aside. He said, "Hey, man. I know this probably isn't the time, but you weren't wrong. She told us about the proposal a week ago. Said she wanted to teach you a lesson in front of everyone if you didn't follow through." He looked genuinely embarrassed to be part of the same family. That confirmed it. This wasn't just pressure. It was a setup. Meanwhile, her sister started texting me later that night. Nothing flirty, just honest. She apologized for not warning me directly and said she didn't expect me to catch on so fast. She told me there had been other guys before me, guys who'd gotten caught in similar games. Guilt-tripped into big gestures, manipulated into public shows of commitment, only to be mocked behind their backs when they didn't live up to her expectations. I wasn't the first. I'd just been the first to push back. It made me question everything. How much of our relationship had been real? How many of those cute arguments were really just subtle tests? And how long had she been planning to humiliate me? Was this weeks in the making, or months? The worst part? I still hadn't talked to her since the party. She went completely silent. No texts, no calls. Just vanished from the conversation, leaving everyone else to pick up the pieces. And while the rest of her family tried to act like it was just a weird misunderstanding, I could feel something deeper brewing beneath the surface. And it wasn't done unraveling yet. The days after the Christmas party felt unreal. I kept waiting for her to text me, to call me, to even show up at my place yelling. But nothing came. It was like she'd flicked a switch and decided I didn't exist anymore. Meanwhile, her sister kept checking in. She didn't push, didn't ask for details, just wanted to be sure I was okay. Part of me wondered if she felt partly responsible for not speaking up sooner. Word about what happened spread faster than I expected. A few of her friends started messaging me on social media. Some were supportive, saying they always thought she was too controlling. Others accused me of humiliating her on purpose. One message said, "You're just bitter because you wouldn't step up." I didn't bother replying. I knew the truth, and I wasn't going to argue with people who only knew her carefully edited version of events. That week, I started boxing up my things. Every picture frame, every gift she'd insisted on displaying, all the little reminders of a relationship that suddenly felt like a performance. While I packed, I kept replaying the look on her face when I knelt down with that ring box. Shock, then anger, then something else, something almost like fear. I couldn't shake the feeling she was terrified her perfect image was about to crack. Then her mom called me. She said my girlfriend had gone to stay with an old friend out of state for a few days. She asked if I'd reconsider, if I'd be willing to talk things out. When I said no, she sighed, like she'd expected it. Before hanging up, she added, "You know, this isn't the first time she's done something like this. But it's the first time someone called her bluff." Her words echoed in my head for hours after. By the time New Year's Eve came, I was in my half-empty apartment, sitting among cardboard boxes. At midnight, my phone finally lit up with her name. My heart thudded, even though I wished it wouldn't. She sent one message. "Meet me tomorrow. I need to explain everything." I didn't reply right away. I just stared at the screen, wondering what she thought she could possibly say to make any of this okay. But part of me had to know. Because if she was willing to risk her family, our relationship, and her own reputation, What exactly had she been hiding all along? I agreed to meet. And I had no idea what was waiting for me. The next day, I met her at a small cafe we used to go to when things were still good between us. It was quiet, tucked into a corner of town, almost too calm for the weight hanging between us. She was already sitting there when I arrived, no makeup, hair pulled back, fidgeting with her phone. For a second, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked tired. Not just physically, mentally drained, like she hadn't slept since the party. I sat down, and before I could say anything, she blurted out, "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it." "Not like that." Her voice was low, not angry, more stunned than anything. I waited. Let her talk. And that's when she dropped the first real twist. She admitted that the ultimatum wasn't just about wanting a proposal, it was about control. But not just of me. She had been under pressure too. From her family. From social media. From the idea that she was falling behind, watching friends get engaged, married, buying homes. She said, "It wasn't just about proving something to you. It was about proving something to everyone else." But then she said something that hit different. "I thought if I embarrassed you, you'd stay. Because you'd feel too ashamed to walk away." That's when I realized it hadn't been about the ring, or the proposal, or even love. It had been about power. And worse, manipulation masked as commitment. But before I could respond, she added, "But I didn't expect my sister to help you." Her tone changed. Sharp. Cold. That's when the second twist landed. She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots. Not just of my conversation with her sister after the party, but ones from before. I'd forgotten I'd ever messaged her about listings months ago, just casually. But she hadn't. And now she was accusing both of us of planning everything together to humiliate her in front of the family. It didn't matter that it wasn't true. The story in her head had already taken root. "You two made me look crazy," she said. "Now everyone's talking about how unstable I am. I lost a brand deal. A sponsor dropped me. My reputation is gone." And suddenly, the stakes weren't just emotional anymore. They were public. She didn't just feel hurt, she felt exposed. And now, she wanted someone to blame. And it looked like she had chosen me. I sat there staring at her, trying to process everything she just said. She really believed I had teamed up with her sister to sabotage her in front of her own family. The idea would have been laughable if her eyes didn't look so serious, hurt, but sharp, like she'd already decided I was the villain. I took a deep breath and said, "I didn't plan any of this. I just reacted to what you were doing. You gave me an ultimatum to force me into a corner, and I chose to step out of it instead." She didn't blink. "Then why did my sister smile when you pulled out that box?" It was clear now. She wasn't just embarrassed. She felt betrayed. Not just by me, but by her sister too. In her mind, the only explanation was a conspiracy, because anything else would mean facing the truth about herself, and the games she played. I tried to explain again. Told her I'd only reached out to her sister for real estate help, and that it wasn't until the night of the party that I made the decision to flip the moment. But she wasn't listening. Her hands were shaking. She looked like she was about to explode. Then came the twist I never saw coming. As I stood to leave, she said, "Well, if I'm going down, I'm not going alone." She opened her phone again and pulled up a draft email, addressed to her family, her friends, even some of my coworkers. In it, she had written a full story. Twisted. False. She claimed I had emotionally manipulated her, faked the proposal scene to publicly humiliate her, and even suggested I'd had an inappropriate relationship with her sister. It was all a lie. But a believable one. She looked up at me, almost daring me to stop her. I stayed calm, even though my chest was pounding. Then I pulled out my phone, scrolled through a folder I'd created after the party, screenshots, voice memos, even a screen recording of her texts giving the ultimatum. "Send your email," I said. "But just know, I've got my receipts too." Her expression shifted. All the fire drained from her face. She didn't expect me to come prepared. That was the moment everything broke. Not loudly. Not with shouting or drama. Just silence, heavy, final. She put her phone down. I walked out. But the final twist? A week later, her sister called me, not just about the apartment. She wanted to grab coffee. Just the two of us. I wasn't sure what to make of the invite at first. Coffee with her sister? After everything that had happened, part of me worried it was a setup. But curiosity won. She'd been the only one in that whole mess who seemed genuinely honest. So, a few days later, we met up at a quiet spot. No drama. No hidden agendas. Just two people trying to make sense of the chaos we'd been dragged into. She opened with a simple, "I'm sorry." Not just for staying quiet, but for not stepping in sooner, even when she saw her sister's behavior spiraling. She admitted she'd seen it happen before, but this was the first time someone actually pushed back instead of going along with it. "You didn't deserve that," she said. "No one does." We talked for a while, about family pressure, expectations, and how easy it is to lose yourself trying to meet everyone else's timeline. And in the middle of that conversation, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. Not at her, not even at my ex. I felt free. Like I had finally stepped out of a role I never really wanted to play. As for my ex, she never sent that email. Maybe the receipts I had were enough to stop her. Or maybe, deep down, she knew she couldn't keep spinning the story forever. Word quietly got around, and her narrative began to fall apart. People started seeing the full picture. A few of her own friends reached out to me later and said they weren't surprised. I ended up moving into a new place, small, quiet, and mine. Her sister helped me find it. And no, there wasn't some dramatic new romance or fairy tale ending. Just mutual respect, some closure, and a few shared laughs over coffee. Looking back, the whole thing taught me a lot. About boundaries. About how love shouldn't feel like pressure. And about the danger of mistaking control for commitment. It wasn't the Christmas I expected, but it was the wake-up call I didn't know I needed. Sometimes, walking away isn't weakness. It's the strongest move you can make. Especially when you finally realize your peace is worth more than someone else's perfect image.